Howdy everyone, I'm Mokog. Welcome back to Hex Center. Today we're going to be going over a DeckTech. So for those who have been in the know, recently we just had Gen Con drop, and one of the great things from Gen Con were the convocation packs, and from these packs dropped a lot of great PvE cards that allow you to build a very specific deck. So we're going to run in, check this deck out, and see what we can do with it. So what we've built is a type of elemental deck. It's ruby, it's sapphire, it does some really crazy fun stuff. One of the primary cards in this is Storm of the Century. So Storm of the Century does really awesome things. The biggest that it does is it is a constant that sits in play, and every time that you gain a charge or play an elemental, it's gaining a counter, and then you're able to use that counter to randomly deal damage to your opponent. The next up is Lightning Elemental. So Lightning Elemental is a good stand-in. It's a swift strike, 2-1. The biggest part about it is that it's helping you gain charges. Now we're running a couple heat waves in here. This can also be detrimental to your own troops, but sometimes you need a board clear when you're going through PvE. Crackling Bolt is a great form of removal. It's getting us charges, it's doing 3 damage, it can hit the champion or a troop. It helps get through a lot of the pains that can come up in Arena. Next we're running Sandstone Remnant. Now this is from set 3, and I have fallen in love with the Socketable Major card. So as an uncommon, it's pretty easy to get a hold of, but because if it's 5-2 on its attack and defense, it's really great to drop a major ruby gem into, and is a pretty good finisher. On top of it being an elemental, it fits into this deck pretty well. Cloud Queen doesn't seem like she should be a very awesome card. She's a 0-4, but her equipment that allows you to bring in a Storm Cloud and her ability to generate charges actually makes her a really good combo enabler for this deck. We'll see how she works here in a few minutes. Probably one of the weakest but kind of backup strategies of this deck is to bring a water elemental or 2 into play, and then to swing those and hit the champion. It doesn't happen very often because of how easy the AI can drop things with either 2 or attack, or enough small drops to be able to block and kill these guys, but water elementals help fill out the roster. You could easily switch these with Cerulean Mirror Knights and might get a little bit more synergy, but we wanted to stick to mostly elementals for this deck. Cloud King is a combo enabler for this deck. So it's a 0-6 for 12, but every time that you are gaining a charge, it's reducing its cost. Almost everything in this deck is synergy with charge, so a lot of the times this cost can get down to 5 or 6 very quickly, and many times you can get this down to 2 or 3, sometimes even free to bring in the Cloud King, and then once the Cloud King comes in on a board that's been going over, that's been worked on, or with a Cloud Queen in play, it gets very combo very quickly. Now we're also running the alternate art Storm Clouds that came from Gen Con. I really like this card. I love the extended art of this guy very much as well. He's zapping a bird and it's amazing. Then we're also running the Crackling Wits. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's draw a card, gain a charge as a quick action. And we're running Arcane Focus, which is almost standard for most Sapphire decks, especially if you're running a fair amount of actions. It's just really powerful for anything that's in Sapphire to be able to look at the next 2 cards and get what you need. It's used for fixing, it's used to pull up any answers that we can find. Arcane Focus is a fantastic card. Now for equipment, we're running the full gamut of equipment that came from Gen Con. So this includes the headpiece, the chest. The most crucial pieces of this are probably the chest piece, which enables your Storm of the Centuries to gain a charge to gain a counter anytime you gain a charge. It really helps focus the synergy of this deck. In addition, the Crown of the Cloud King allows you to void it and then put all the elementals from your discard pile into play. That helps a lot of the synergies in this deck and is actually a really crucial piece to making this deck work. The rest of them are not as awesome, but also really good. Slippers of the Cloud Queen are very powerful in that it reduces her cost. It makes her a good 3-drop for this deck. The Lanterns are also fantastic because it brings in another Storm Cloud. The Elemental Gloves are probably the best part about them is that they bring in your Storm of the Centuries for free when you have 4 Elementals. I really like having those in there most of the time because it allows you to be able to stack storms very quickly that have accumulated in your hand. And then probably the most expendable piece of equipment is the Umbrella of the Cloud King, the weapon slot. It gives them +4. It makes them an attacker. Most of the time they're not going to stay on the field, but it's sometimes good to have a 4/6 blocker in the air. So now let's run this into Arena, and let's see how this can do. So far with this deck, we've been able to run this with a perfect Arena run, but we've also been able to scrub out on the first tier. So what I would say so far is it tends to be a little streaky. First tier being the first tier past the beginner's tier. So I guess technically tier 2. And let's go through an example game and see what we can see with this deck. Generally, you want to be able to play first with this deck, and having your thresholds is generally very important. So a hand like this where you have 2 ruby shards isn't a bad start because we have the sandstone rumbler, but we see that we want to have a sapphire for our storm cloud and our water elemental, and we want 3 sapphire for our cloud king. We're going to keep this because we have the crackling bolt, and we'll be able to use that to help fend off any trouble that may come from the opponent. As you see, the cloud king is already beginning to reduce its cost. Great that we've got a free water elemental here in play. We want to go ahead and see what we've got coming up with our arcane focus. We definitely want to grab this sapphire shard because it's going to enable our storm clouds. So with our storm clouds enabled, now we just need to survive about one more turn, and if we can survive that turn, we're going to be doing pretty well. So we know we have to block at least 1 here. So we're going to go ahead and block the 2/1. There's a possibility that the champion could pump it up ×2. That doesn't generally happen in the AI, but you want to be prepared for it. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to play down our Cloud Queen. We see that our Storm of the Century has dropped its cost down to 0. This is very important. We want to get that into play now. And now we're going to go ahead and drop the Ruby Shard. This is going to limit our ability to play Cloud King this turn, but we should be able to do pretty well here. So we now have a 4/4 coming in. We have a couple flyers. Now we're going to do our best to make the best use of everything. So now we're going to pop our Cloud Queen, give charges to our elementals. We want to pop the Storm Cloud, and then we're going to pop this next Storm Cloud. So we see we have the ability to draw cards here. We're going to use those to block this time, and we're going to see if we can make the most use out of some of these guys. So first we're going to go ahead and destroy a couple of our big Banes here. And we'll go ahead and pass our turn now. So we would try to get in through with the water elemental here. In fact, it's probably not a bad idea because it's going to give us another elemental to charge up with. So we see our Cloud King has already dropped down to its 4 cost. This is really, really cool for us. And we want to have a little bit of control and a little bit of draw here. So we know we would lose one of these guys anyway to that attack. So we'll go ahead and exhaust him. It's fine that he brings down another 4/4 angel. We're now going to go ahead and draw up some cards. And we can take this opportunity to maybe get in a little bit of damage. Alright, so we're glad to see a Storm Cloud here. It's good for getting in another elemental. So we drop in our Storm Cloud. We can drop in another Ruby Shard. We're going to go ahead and attack with all of our ground troops. And we're going to see if we can kill anything off right now. So this is dealing random damage. So we're able to kill off one so far. And we're putting in a lot of hurt on the opposing champion. So there's a good chance with this Storm Cloud we're going to be able to get something useful. We did. We're going to go ahead and destroy their troop now, and we should be set up for the win next turn. So this is very much a combo style deck. It can get very streaky in addition to that. Alright, so now that we have the Sapphire Shard, so we see that this cost is reduced down to 2. Before we play down the Sandstone Rumbler, which will just end the game for us, let's see if we can show off the combo a little bit. So now we've got the Cloud King in for 2. We can void him and he's going to bring back all of our Storm Clouds. This is going to charge our Storm of the Century right back up. And it's going to give us another Cloud Queen. We discard the Cloud Queen. Every one of them gets 2 charges. We can drop in another one of our own troops, giving us another charge. And you see we already have enough charges on the Storm Cloud to pretty much kill everything on board. It doesn't really matter where the damage would go now. It kills everything. And then with our Storm Clouds, we can bring in and try to draw for the things we need. Getting things like splashies. Getting the ability to exhaust troops, to deal damage to those exhausted troops. And generally just giving us options. So now at the end of running that through, we still have 5 damage we can put through. We still can run through and do additional attacks. We know we've got at least 4 coming in from the Rock Elemental, plus the 2 Water Elementals that are in play, and a guaranteed kill in hand on top of that. So if we would just wanted to be a little OP, drop in our Rumbler, and have it deal some direct damage for fun. So we went from a very negative situation in that game to a very positive situation. We were getting beat on board. We had just a need to reach our thresholds, and then we completely turned that game around. As you saw that there was a lot of things coming in with a 2 cost, which makes Cerulean Mirror Knights a really great card for this deck. For thematics, we went with a Water Elemental. If you want to fine-tune this further, there are a few ways to do it. But I think with this style of deck, we can do really well at clearing the arena at a decent pace. It's not the fastest deck in the world, but it's really fun. I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me. The Storm deck is a very interesting and fun deck to play. It's very much a combo style of deck, and we don't have a huge amount of combo decks existing in the PvE. All in all, though expensive, very fun to play, and we'll be playing the sucker on stream multiple times, especially to just kind of show off and take a look at the fun that you can have in some of the PvE combo style of decks. And if once we have a Wild West format, it's going to be a very interesting deck to play against. So until next time, I'm Mokog, this is Hex Hunter. Y'all keep being awesome.